Did you do your taxes? Well, I did, but just last month, at the end of March, I got an email from Zoom. Zoom stating IRS document invited you to view document. Apparently, Secure Docs Review at umgs.online wanted to send along some tax documents. Now, if it's not already obvious, that is not the IRS, nor would we expect that to come from Zoom. This is a phishing email. A little bit crafty though, right? Hey, this is coming from real Zoom.us, official legitimate Zoom, leveraging the Zoom Docs capability, which I didn't know was a thing. Apparently you can just send documents to people and that'll land in their inbox. Think like a Google Drive or Google Docs file share or Dropbox, and this open button literally takes you to docs.zoom.us. But we can pretty well presume, taking advantage of tax season and that uncertainty, hackers are trying to send out malware. So in this video, we'll take a look at what that malware really was from this fake Zoom-based IRS tax lure. And now because this was some time ago, that document in Zoom Docs is no longer available, but I did take a screenshot when it was still live. Ultimately, it just presented you with a button that once you clicked it, it would drive your web browser to this website. The URL and domain here is snucko.work, which is clearly an official website of the United States government. Here's how you know. And you got all the fancy Internal Revenue Service, US Department of Treasury, your tax document is ready for download. Looks official, looks like their website, but this button here to download your tax document as a PDF did not download a PDF file. Instead, it downloaded a file called irs_tax_document.js. Now, nerds and geeks are probably familiar that .js sounds a lot like JavaScript, but we're expecting this to run on your computer, on your endpoint, on your Windows operating system. And that will invoke JScript, kind of like some Microsoft Windows dialect that can run locally, naturally on Windows. Now, to make sure I don't accidentally detonate this thing, I am operating under Remnux, the reverse engineering malware Linux distribution, and I created a directory here in my terminal for us to work in, and I've opened up that IRS tax document.js, and it looks like this. All minified, crammed onto one line, and so much so that Sublime Text, my text editor, can't even get the syntax highlighting right. But obviously this looks pretty bad, right? This is obfuscated code or mangled and manipulated to be super confusing that a human analyst, like a security researcher or security operations center analyst, can't quite make sense of. We do see what looks like a big variable, an array of a lot of different base 64 encoded strings or data, and we could carve those out and make some sense of them, but we also see calls to WScript. A lot of different indicators of that, where it's trying to use the Windows script engine and host. Again, that is activated on your Windows endpoint. And it's pretty clear that this is malware. Now, I gotta be honest, I hate looking at JavaScript or JScript code, especially when it's obfuscated, trying to analyze or reverse engineer. It's just gross. It looks like a mess. So to try and understand this further, maybe like a knee-jerk reaction, I'm gonna be looking for tools that can help make sense of this thing. One of the very well-known tools is DE4JS, and we could just like slap in their web interface what this might be able to make sense of, but it doesn't really do a whole lot. Like, it beautifies it and cleans it up, so okay, there's some more white space and different lines here, but the variables are still kind of a mess. It hasn't base 64 decoded some of those strings or values. This isn't super helpful. So we keep looking around on Google, we try to find some other resource or tool when we paste that in, but oh, it says, hey, your code looks like it's been obfuscated using obfuscator.io. This is very well known. This is very common for JScript or JavaScript obfuscation. If they want to bring you to another tool to try that out, we paste it in here, deobfuscate, but again, it's not super helpful compared to what it could be. Now, you gotta think of this as like an analysis and triage perspective, because say this were to hit a real victim, someone were to fall for this, and a security operations center analyst were to investigate and try and understand what happened here, make sense of this malware, they need answers pretty quick. And fumbling around with the tools to try to deobfuscate this is annoying, and we need to move fast. Because there's a billion other alerts going off, and we gotta move on to the next signal in the queue. So you know what tool would be really good at making sense of code? What could give us a little bit more superpowers here? You guessed it, AI. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. We could crap this into Codex, Claude Code, whatever. Honestly, I took the high road, made it easy, just gave it old chat jippity, asking honestly more for resources, like other tools that we could try to make sense of this thing. I'm a big proponent of using AI still to learn or get more exposure to new technologies, more solutions to solve problems. And the robot suggested WebCrack, which maybe you're familiar with, but it's not one that, again, I have a knee-jerk reaction to. There are a couple other options here, and again, I just wanted to learn and see what else is available. A lot of these have command line tools and other capabilities, but they even have some sweet suggestions to use AI to help clean things up. It offered some references and resources, and we could go kind of take a closer look at all these on GitHub if we wanted to. We could download the NPM library or the node package to be able to get this thing in action locally, but they make it easy for us again with a quick online playground. Since we're still experimenting inside of our virtual machine, I don't have any issue playing with these things. We could try to run that code off GitHub or use some of these online utilities here. So let me paste in the original obfuscated code, and we have some buttons to toggle on or off what sort of efforts and actions we want the tool to do, even determine how we sort of mangle or work with variable names. But let me click start here, and this looks a lot better. That unraveled the base 64 strings, put them all in place. We haven't quite cleaned up our variable names quite yet, and maybe we do just let AI figure that out. But let's clean this up just a little bit further and then dig into what exactly is this thing gonna do. But real quick, while we're talking about AI and how it kind of gives you an Iron Man suit for a lot of this technical malware analysis work, investigations and triage, and your security operations center can move at machine speed, let me take a quick second to tell you about the sponsor of today's video. Panther. It's the complete AI security operations center platform. Tons of cybersecurity tools help analysts move faster, but Panther is built to do something different: scale human expertise across security operations. Because Panther brings together the data lake, detection engine, and AI all within one unified platform, so agents can work with full context across your environment. Not just summarizing alerts, but actually investigating incidents, classifying risk, actively tuning detections, and proactively expanding coverage. Other teams using Panther are seeing 90% faster investigations, 70% faster detection tuning, and significantly less alert noise. It's AI in the SOC done the right way. If you want to see what a closed-loop AI SOC actually looks like and see how it can completely change your security posture for the better, check out Panther with my link below in the video description, jh.live/Panther. Huge thanks to Panther for sponsoring this video. All right, so let's get back to where we were. We have a pretty well deobfuscated JScript sample and malware here now. Some of our variable names, though, aren't still super clear as to what they are or what they do, and we were thinking we could just let AI help on that front. Remember, Chatty G was saying maybe we could try something like Humanify to use an abstract syntax tree and AI to rename variables and clean up code, sort of like a final pass. So Humanify.js looks like kind of a neat tool here over on GitHub. We'll clean up a lot of the code and properly rename variables to make sense, to be a little bit more readable, but it really kind of requires an API key. Some of the usage here, depending on the model or API that you kick this over to, you will need to hook up an API key. I'm cognizant, though, that API usage is usually pay-as-you-go or like usage-based cost, so why not just throw it right back at ChatGPT? And it was able to clean things up to have a little bit more logical renaming of these different variable names for each part as they are used and referenced throughout the code. So back over in my virtual machine now, I do have the deobfuscated version, and this is going to be a lot easier to read and us make sense of. We're defining a big anonymous function, getting some wrapper objects and variables to work with shell commands and the file system, all thanks to WScript like we saw previously, expanding a temporary directory environment variable to see where we could put a log file to disable and install.log is the way that we track the operations here, and a convenience function to actually write to that log or log something here. Now, I'm going to be real with y'all. I don't know. This looks and feels, it's got a little bit of that smell that maybe this whole thing, this payload is like AI vibe coded in its own right. Because there's a lot of like debugging output that doesn't need to be here to accomplish the objective, actually fire off a continued payload. We loop through our arguments, we track those down, and then we check if we are running as an administrator. Whether or not this was invoked with /elevate, which uses UAC, or the user account control, to restart this script and run it once again if it hasn't already been ran with admin privileges or with the /elevate argument. They log it here how they're using cscript.exe, and that's the command line interpreter on your Windows host, built in, native, included with Windows, that's just how it happens, to fire and run this JScript code. They mix that with the run as command here so they can use that /elevate argument and then actually pop up and ask for your administrative privileges. Do you want to run this? Like UAC pop up user account control. Then they disable Smart Screen, which is kind of neat. They have admin privileges so they can write to the Windows registry at the HK local machine Hive, and they just set Smart Screen enabled to off. Whether or not they were admin or not, they could still write to HKCU or the HKey current user. That should always have write privileges for your own local account, the user you are currently running as. And these little tweaks tell Windows, look, don't analyze things with Smart Screen, one of your security mechanisms. And then it goes through a loop to be able to actually set these and toggle these in the registry. You can see these shell run commands with gross, obvious, pretty clear alarm bells go off reg add commands. Your EDR should, goodness gracious, track that thing down if you got some good security posture there. Also cutesy though, they set a group policy registry key, force Smart Screen off the best that they can, and then we download and install an MSI file or Microsoft installer, and there it is. We should have known. Screen Connect. Here's our hacker's IP address hard-coded in with the quick and easy guest access connection for a Screen Connect remote control capability so that they can continue to operate now on this infected computer. They put it inside of their temporary directory. They go ahead and stage it all, download it, and then run with PowerShell here. Bake in another PowerShell script to actually have that downloaded. I don't know why they'd pivot from JScript to just inline use PowerShell, literally staging a whole nother file on disk, download.ps1, and then they run the command to run the script. So this is stupid, right? This is, I don't want to say our old AI vibe coded malware slop, but I think that's it. They do even use the PowerShell commandlet to unblock file though, which is kind of neat. Just in case like the alternate data streams ADS for a zone identifier to say, oh, this came from the internet, we can't trust it. They say, no, force trust it. We'll automatically unblock it for you. We run MSI exec with quiet and no restart, and then it'll automatically kick off and run Screen Connect as their command and control, and that's the end of the script. Maybe 360 lines as a little JScript stager, little PowerShell in between for some reason to run Screen Connect. Now, Screen Connect, if you're not familiar, very well-known remote access solution with good intentions, right? This is used for, hey, remote support, troubleshooting, debugging, helping your teammates, your coworkers, being able to control their computer to fix things, to solve problems. But because it lets you control their screen, because it gives access to the file system, because you can run programs and really do whatever you'd like, it can be taken advantage of by threat actors and hackers. I always get a little bit squeamish talking about Screen Connect because, look, I'm good buddies with some of the folks over at ConnectWise. They have some incredible people there. They're smart. It's just an unfortunate reality that Screen Connect kind of runs rampant as one RMM solution, remote monitoring and management, and that doubles as a C2 command and control, like remote access Trojan, remote access tool, rat. I'm not trying to be mean to my friends. I'm sorry. I just think that's the reality of the landscape right now. There are a lot of on-premise, like cracked or illegitimate installations that have kind of been running rampant, 72% of all RMM abuse in 2025, and I think we're still seeing uptick. So for funsies, we can go see how this thing might look. While the original Zoom docs file from the phishing email was down, Screen Connect instance is still up and active, and that is that. So what do you do? Screen Connect does have one interesting distinction though, because sometimes the relay to make connections can be decoupled or separated from, okay, this kind of control panel and access. If we go to their ASHX file, it exposes some other info, like, hey, maybe some extension GUIDs or identifiers for extensions they might have installed, and that includes their config just as well. Here, I'll zoom in a bit so you can see the K key value, encoded, encrypted. For fingerprint sake, you could see the version, and the relay could very well be included in the H, like host parameter, and P for the port. So that is on the same IP address that we've seen on port 8041. That could be variable though. That could have been completely different, however they kind of set up some of the infrastructure, from what I understand. So hey, don't fall for a Zoom docs, phishing email, tax-based lure, JScript, PowerShell, rat for Screen Connect to be installed onto your computer. Don't fall for the fish. Don't fall victim to how they stage their post-exploitation and more damage done. But do learn some of those tricks, some of those tools, some of that triage process for analysis and investigation. And hey, don't be shy, sprinkle in a little bit of AI in there to help out. Please do give some love to today's video sponsor. Big shout out to Panther. They do seriously cool stuff. And thanks so much for watching. See you in the next video.